Hello and welcome to the video. In this video I'm going to be showing you the most common types of malware and how to avoid them. Now there's lots of malware out there, but I'm going to go through some of the common types, and then once I've done that I'm going to show you how you can avoid getting malware. One of the most common types of malware is ransomware. Now once ransomware is on your device, it's going to encrypt your data, which means it locks you out of that data, and then the person managing that ransomware is going to ask for a ransom to unlock or decrypt that data on your device. Now even after the ransomware is paid, there's no guarantee of actually getting that data back. Ransomware can come from many different sources, such as email attachments, downloads, and or websites. Another common type of malware are viruses, and viruses tend to come from a virus is essentially harmful software that installs onto your device, and essentially again either steals your personal information, can also delete your data, access your accounts, access all these personal information from these potential accounts. And obviously if these accounts have access to credit card information and the ability to purchase stuff, then obviously that makes the situation worse, and that's something that a virus can actually interact with and utilize. Typically a virus would actually spread itself, so not only is it going to go onto your device, but it will also try and contact other devices or transfer itself onto other devices. Let's say for example if you're connected to the same Wi-Fi and your device gets infected with a virus, then it's going to try and essentially infect other devices that's connected to that Wi-Fi as well. Another type of virus is a worm. So a worm virus, again, it's harmful software that gets installed into your device, and it will spread itself throughout the network. So again, if you've got devices connected to Wi-Fi, it's going to spread itself. As I mentioned before, it's looking for certain vulnerabilities. This means holes in either the system or software that you have, and it's going to look for holes that you can get into to do things like stealing your information, installing other harmful software onto your device, and potentially corrupt your data, and do other kinds of harm as well, depending on what vulnerability it can expose and make use of. Then we have Trojan viruses. So Trojan viruses pretend to be a legit software. So things like, let's say for example you go to download Adobe away from the legit Adobe website, then that could be a Trojan horse disguised as Adobe. So you're installing that software thinking it's Adobe Reader, for example, when actually it's not. It's a Trojan horse. Sorry, Trojan virus even. So that's similar to the concept of Trojan horse, where it comes in looking legit and actually then is spreading out throughout your system, throughout your devices, again spreading itself and onto other devices that are connected to the same network. It also allows hackers into your device. It allows them to hijack your device, and it allows them to perform multitude of things such as criminal activities as well. So not only targeting other people with that Trojan virus, but also potentially targeting organisations. They can use that your device as like a bot to then try and take out other companies, or again spread the virus onto other people. There's a few things you can do to avoid malware. That's just checking things like emails are legit when you're being sent them. Be wary of downloading attachments. Always look out for notifications. So you're sure you want to download the software, it could be harmful. Always listen to those notifications. Always be careful of the links that you're clicking on. Always hover over the links and ensure it's taking you to the correct place. Typically, if you are looking for a particular link, then always go to Google and try and source it yourself, rather than clicking on links that come through via email, as these tend to be, especially if they're from unknown senders. Just always be wary of that. If you get emails that are coming from expected senders, or and they look a bit weird or dodgy, always contact the person that sent it and just make sure that that email is legit and they've sent that. Always be wary of emails that come in requesting something to be urgently done. That's something and a tactic that hackers can use to either get you to install something, get you to do something that could then allow malware onto your device. Just be careful of the websites you're visiting, make sure they're legit, make sure they have the padlock at the top left as well, in particular when you're using credit cards and making purchases. Again, always source websites yourself or use websites that you've used before, and try to avoid websites that you haven't used before where possible, and ensure they're from a trusted source as well if you're ever asked to visit a website. And always make sure again to contact that person if you know them, or if you have another like a phone number for them, give them a call and just make sure that that the website's legit if you're being sent it. Try not to give out your personal information, so you never know who you're talking to. They might be disguised as someone else. Maybe they're from your electricity company. Maybe they pretend to be from a bill that you owe or something like that, or they pretend to know you. Just always be wary of the information that you're giving out, because they can collect that. So hackers can collect that and then use that against you to then get you to install malware in like a targeted attack. Always install system and software updates. So when you're asked to install updates, just make sure you install them as quickly as you can. So for example, Windows has the Windows update, so as soon as that pops up, make sure you're installing those. And then any software that you're using, make sure you're updating those regularly. If there's any software that you don't use, just simply uninstall them, and then that avoids any vulnerabilities or holes that hackers can exploit. Typically, if you're not using the software, then it's going to become out of date, which means it's more susceptible to a malware infection. Make sure you've got security software installed. So if you've got Windows, for example, you can use Defender, but there are also other security softwares, things like Kaspersky or McAfee, or whatever one you're used to using. You can install that and just make sure that's running. Make sure you open it as well, configure that as requested on the screen. So sometimes they want you to configure a certain setting or turn on a certain feature. Just make sure you follow that through if there are any recommendations. When you're using your device day in, day out, just for like general day-to-day use, make sure it's a non-admin account. So if you've got an account where you can do whatever you want, you can install software, you can change settings, etc., etc. Just make sure that you're not using that account. If you can create a new one, that's a standard account, because at the end of the day, if you're using it for browsing to websites, using it for your email, and it has full access to your system, it's going to make it easier for malware to get onto your system and then infect your entire system. Whereas if you had a standard user account or a standard account, then the malware might not be able to get onto your device, and even if it does, it limits that blast radius. Always use passphrases. This could be sentences that you remember. This could be like a sentence from a song lyric, or a sentence from a song that you can remember. And try to use a password manager as well. So Keeper, for example, is a password manager that you can use to create complex passwords and store them. And then all you need to remember is the master password. And once you remember that master password, you get into your accounts. You can then randomly set passwords for all of your accounts that are all different, and makes it harder for someone to exploit you and put malware onto your device. Always use multi-factor authentication. So you're used to the idea of putting in a username and password to access your account. And what multi-factor authentication is, it puts an extra layer onto that, or an extra step onto that. So you, instead of putting just your username and password, when you put in username and password and you're logging in, it's then asking you to accept the notification to prove it's you, or to send a text message to your mobile and then put in that code to verify it's you. It's very similar to how banking apps would work. So if you have a banking app, then you're already using it most likely. Always make sure you back up your important data. If you've got documents, images, or anything that you really need, make sure they're backed up to either a cloud software, something like, or a cloud system, something like OneDrive, Box, Google Drive, for example, are really good examples. Just upload those documents there, because if you are ever infected with malware, in particular ransomware, and it locks you out of your data, well, at least you have that data somewhere else. So you can always kind of get that data back. If you're using public networks, so things like Wi-Fi connections or internet in coffee shops or hotels where it's just open, you can connect to it, and it just allows you straight in without the need for like a password. Then again, these networks are used by hackers. So what someone could do is they could run some software that allows them to see what's going on. So if you're connected to that internet and you're doing things like banking, or you're putting in sensitive information, they can see what exactly you're doing, what you're typing, etc. So the solution to that would be to use a VPN software, so something like NordVPN or TurboVPN, or if you already use a VPN, then you can use that as well. And that essentially scrambles the information, so someone's listening in to that network or to that internet, and they're using that software, it's going to be gobbledygook to them, and it's far harder for them to try and figure out what you're doing. Now this one's a bit outdated, but if you come across USB that you're not sure of, or you've found USB and you don't know where it came from, don't ever plug it into your device. Or if someone comes to you with USB that you don't know and says, hey, plug in this USB, obviously don't do it. Now, again, this is another source of malware. It's becoming less common because people don't tend to use USBs or external hard drives that you plug into your device, but thought it was worth a mention. So thanks for watching. I hope you found this useful, and I'll see you in the next video.